In 19th century Paris, the fine art establishment was defined by a rigid set of rules. If you walked into the halls of the official academy, you would find yourself surrounded by massive, imposing canvases. To be considered a serious painter, you were expected to focus on serious things: historical battles, ancient myths, and grand tragedies. Ordinary pleasure had no place here. The elite dismissed everyday happiness, people laughing, dancing, or simply reading in the shade, as decorative and naive. But the artist who would challenge this standard began his life entirely outside this world. He was the son of a tailor, born into working-class poverty. When Pierre-Auguste Renoir was 4, his family moved to Paris, settling in a neighborhood that put him within walking distance of the Louvre. He grew up steps away from the most famous paintings in Western history. At 13, he went to work in a porcelain factory. His job was to paint flowers and pastoral scenes onto plates and cups. It was repetitive labor, but it taught him to handle paint economically and how to create a sense of glowing light on a flat surface. When machines eventually replaced the factory's hand painters, Renoir lost his job. He used that transition to enter the world of fine art, eventually joining the studio where he met Claude Monet. Renoir decided to take the bright, decorative colors of his porcelain training and apply them to the massive scale of museum masterpieces. He wanted to paint the joy of ordinary life with the same intensity usually reserved for the gods. While his peers chased the effects of wind and weather, Renoir turned his lens toward people, their skin, faces, and social gatherings. His 1876 masterpiece, Dance at the Moulin de la Galette, captures a crowd of working-class Parisians on a Sunday afternoon. He was attempting to capture the dynamic movement and energy of a massive social crowd at an immense scale. Renoir mastered how sunlight filters through leaves. The light breaks into distinct patches of blue-violet shadow and bright yellow. Critics mocked these purple blotches, but science confirms they blend in our eyes at a distance, creating a far truer sensation of outdoor light. Creating a scene that feels this effortless required a calculated arrangement of color and form. He was building a precise record of an uncomplicated moment. This meticulous approach is most apparent when painting human skin. He built living warmth by layering separate dabs of pink, cream, ochre, and blue. By the early 1880s, Renoir reached a point of successful doubt. He had become famous, but worried that pure Impressionism was becoming too formless and fleeting. He traveled to Italy to study the old masters, experimenting with sharper outlines and classical arrangements. He wanted to give his subjects a renewed sense of solid weight. He was looking for a way to make the joy he painted more permanent. He wanted to ensure the warmth of a sunny afternoon would be preserved by a solid, lasting structure. In his later years, Renoir moved to the south of France, settling in Cannes-sur-Mer, among ancient olive trees overlooking the Mediterranean. It was here that he began a decades-long struggle with severe progressive rheumatoid arthritis. The disease was relentless. By the end of his life, his hands had contracted into rigid, painful claws that could no longer grip a brush. To keep painting, assistants strapped the brush to his deformed wrists with cloth. He applied paint by moving his entire arm from the shoulder. This level of physical agony should have changed the nature of his work. It should have introduced a sense of darkness or exhaustion to his canvases. Instead, Renoir's late paintings are his most luminous. They are expansive, sun-drenched scenes of bathers and fruit that feel richer and warmer than anything he painted as a young man. There is no trace of his physical struggle in the paint itself. He completely excluded the reality of his suffering from the world of his art. This choice was an act of extreme will. He prioritized the viewer's experience of beauty over his own daily reality. Renoir treated happiness as a subject worthy of the rigor usually reserved for history and myth. He proved that even as the body fails, the decision to record beauty remains a deliberate, powerful act.